I have a real concern that the world's going to get real ugly real soon, folks. I keep hearing that we're going to have a pretty bad recession hit us in the middle of 2023. I mean, we're already in a recession now, but I hear that it's going to be pretty darn ugly about 6 months from now. Heck, I even hear we're going to be lucky if we don't go into another Great Depression. I really hope I'm wrong. I hope those other people are wrong too. Hope we don't go into a major recession or a Great Depression, but folks, with the way the government's printing up all this funny money and everything else that they're doing, I'm really concerned. I don't really think the prices have went sky high yet. The extra prices that the farmers are paying for the diesel right now and for the fertilizer and everything else, we're going to see those high prices for those crops and stuff like that down the road from now. Right now, the farmers are getting beat up. We're going to get beat up even more down the road. Folks, I really think we're going to be lucky if we don't get into another Great Depression 2.0. I also keep hearing about how right now as we speak, how a lot of people, or there are a lot of people that are starting to use credit cards to pay for their groceries because the price of gas and the price of everything else has went up, that they've actually had to start resorting to the use of their credit cards to pay for their groceries on a weekly basis. And sooner or later, this is all going to come to a head. Sooner or later, all these people that are doing that, they're going to max out their credit cards, and they're not going to be able to get groceries anymore. Now, once this happens and people stop buying so much, then there's going to be a lot of businesses that's going to start closing. People are going to start getting laid off, and we're just going to end up going into a downward spiral. Folks, I am concerned. So I kind of look at this simply. When money gets tight, when people really start feeling the crunch, they stop doing things like going out to eat and going to the movies, and they stop going to expensive coffee places. They quit taking their dogs to those expensive doggy daycares and stuff like that. And then let's just, for an example, when people quit going out to eat, then waitresses lose their jobs. And then when waitresses lose their jobs, then waitresses are no longer able to afford things that are made in factories, and so then the factory worker ends up getting laid off, and then you can just see this downward spiral of how this happens. So my first piece of advice to you is to not put yourself in debt. My second piece of advice to you is to make sure that your job is an essential job. Right now, I would not want to be working at an expensive coffee house or working at a doggy daycare or something like that that's considered a luxury. So don't put yourself in debt. Make sure your job is an essential job. The last thing that you want to be is in debt and also out of a job. And my next piece of advice is to stock up on food now. Yes, right now food may seem expensive, but I think food right now is going to be considered cheap to how it's going to be in the not too distant future. If you've not already done a stocking of any food, at least stock up on rice and beans. I know rice and beans would grow real boring real fast, but I don't ever foresee grocery stores going completely bare. I think that you'll in the near future, you'll at least be able to buy things to at least flavor those rice and beans and add to those rice and beans, but your rice and your beans would be the majority of your calories, would be the bulk of your meal. Think of like third world countries where rice and beans are the bulk of their meal. They don't have food boredom, but rice and beans are the bulk of what they eat, but they do have a lot of variety of what they do eat. So that's something I think that we will be seeing here in the future here in the United States and probably across the world. So again, I would personally, if I did not have food already stocked up, I would be buying extra rice and beans now if money was that tight for me. And my next piece of advice to you would be to start now planning on how you're going to be able to grow as much food as you can, probably starting this spring. While you may not be able to grow enough food to completely feed yourself and your family, you can at least grow things that will provide you extra nutrients and vitamins, and also stuff that will help flavor those rice and those beans. And speaking about growing your own food, I have heard many preppers say that if things ever get that bad and they actually have to start growing their own food, that they are just going to clear land and start their gardens. And folks, I am here to tell you this: if you have never really cleared any real garden space before, it is not as easy as you think it would be. Cutting down trees like this to start a garden is you will expend a lot more calories than what that gardening space or whatever would actually provide you. It's what we would call diminishing returns. When you are actually using up more calories to produce your food than the amount of calories that food would put into you, you will work and starve yourself to death. So then another piece of advice for you would be that if you are one of those people that do plan to start your garden after things get that bad, then use the mechanical advantage that you can easily use now to get that garden started. You don't want to wait until things go sideways to try to start that garden, because you might not be able to have the gasoline to run that tiller to till the land up. You may not have the money or the gasoline to be able to run those chainsaws or to buy the chainsaw or anything else like that. And that's one of the reasons why I got this tractor, to help give me that mechanical advantage. Here at my bug out property, this thing helps me do a lot of work to help get this place up, whipped into shape. This can do in hours or what have you, what would take me days or weeks to do by hand. And yes, I would love a bigger and better tractor than what I got, but hey, I'm poor, government paycheck. But this tractor is one of the main things I use to keep some of these areas under control where I film videos for you here for this channel. But the whole point behind showing you this tractor is that while I can still afford the diesel to run this, I was able to pay cash for this. So while I'm able to afford the tractor and afford the diesel to run this, I'm getting a lot of work done now. And then once that work is accomplished with this, then it is much easier to maintain those areas by hand after this thing has done the bulk of the work. So if you are one of those people that are planning on clearing garden space for growing your own food, then rent or buy the rototillers now while you can afford it, or while you at least can borrow one and afford the gas, or buy or rent or borrow chainsaws now so you can cut down the trees to do what you got to do to clear it. But use that mechanical advantage to yourselves now. That way you are not doing back-breaking work down the road just to try to grow food that's not going to even give you back half the amount of calories that you spend trying to grow that food to begin with. So do you think the government's doing everything good with the money, or do you think that we're just going to stay in a recession, or do you think we are heading for another Great Depression 2.0? Comment down below. Now folks, there's a dirty little secret that these water purification companies do not tell you before you go and drop several $100s on their water purification system. And to learn about that dirty little secret that could cost you your life, then click on the video that should be appearing on the screen just about now to learn about that. Anyways folks, this is enough internet for me today. I do need to get to work. So folks, if you made it this far, hey, thank you very much for watching. And I pray that you have a good night.